Hello, it's Nikki B and welcome to the final part of our English 101 series. So, in the past videos, we've tackled, the importance of listening and speaking skills. This time, we'll talk about that one skill everyone should really aim to improve, which is writing. And why do I say that this is the skill that should be taking the spotlight? Well, it's because writing holds relevance in all walks of life, from students, all types of professionals, and all the way to freelancing. In fact, let me highlight that writing is especially important in freelancing. Why? Well, it's because as an Amazon VA, you will be communicating most of the time via email or messaging platform. So that said, we shouldn't underestimate the role that writing plays in effectively communicating and working with your clients. The tips we're going to share with you today are the best proven practices that you can use right here, right now, as you are starting your freelancing career, not just as an Amazon VA, but also with other types of VA. The very first tip is to be direct. So in any form of communication, good writing is clear and concise. This can be especially challenging for those who have a wide range of vocabulary because they tend to have the misconception na the more words I write, the more fluent I will seem. And that's actually not always the case. The key is always in being as clear and as concise as possible and just get straight to the point. Loose filler words like all those unnecessary adverbs. Too many flowery words simply take up space and weigh a sentence down. So say exactly what you mean in the most direct way. The simpler, the better. Next, tip number 2 is choose your words. There are 100 or 1,000 ways to write a thought. There is no one-size-fits-all formula to know which word to use or what pattern to apply. But if you're looking for a good benchmark, always choose the simpler of 2 words. For example, between succinct and clear, maybe go for clear. Between vital or important, maybe use important. Remember to use familiar vocabulary instead of lofty words from the English language. Again, you are trying to communicate here and not doing a script for an oratorical piece. Simple words are easier for all readers to understand, including your client. Let me give you this standard tip. Use a thesaurus if kailangan mo ng replacement or an easier way to say something. You'd be surprised how simple the alternative terms are. Now let's move on to tip number 3. So the shorter the sentence, the better. So communication loses steam with too much wordiness. Short sentences are easier to comprehend, and anyone who reads your writing or email will always appreciate it. Avoid trying to pack too many ideas in one sentence. And it's always a good thing to read it out loud. And if it seems too long that you'd feel you're gonna go out of breath, then something is off. Whatever doesn't sound right when spoken most likely looks off when written. And let me give you a pro tip. So every sentence should contain only one thought or idea. After all, what is the point in communicating if you're only confusing or overwhelming the client? Next, we have tip number 4, which is to keep your reports and paragraphs short and easy to understand. Okay, so you made your sentences shorter now, but the paragraphs look like a page drawn from an encyclopedia. The font looks very small and the whole page is just an army of text. It's overwhelming sa first look pa lang. While this works just fine for reference books or other forms of literature, it doesn't work well for less formal writing. Keep your paragraph short and manageable. Try to make each paragraph consist of sentences that support the main idea. Short paragraphs are easier to digest, period. Again, you are communicating with a client here and not submitting an academic article for your college professor. Huwag kalimutan na sa freelancing world, short paragraphs are the norm. Tip number 5 is always use the active voice. So Nikki, what is the active voice? So the active voice adheres to the subject, verb, object, sentence structure. So in other words, isipin nyo na lang na the subject is the doer of the action. So for example, in your email, you can write, our operations manager delegated our tasks yesterday, our new task yesterday. Instead of using the passive form, which is new tasks were delegated by our manager yesterday. Did you notice how the active voice makes it sound more direct and exciting? And while on the other hand, the passive voice makes sentences longer and therefore weaker. Moving on to the next tip is tip number 6, make editing a habit. So proofreading your emails and messages won't usually take much of your time. It's very light work that will create a habit that points to always doing things right. Tighten your writing, check your word choice, and sentence structure before you click that send button. We will always have typos, but that doesn't mean that you should make it a habit to leave them sprawling everywhere. As remote workers, there's only so much we can do to prove that we are the achievers or experts that we claim to be. And editing every piece of written work is already a good step. Tip number 7 is use a natural conversational tone. If there's a tip that a lot of people miss out on is to sound like yourself in emails. Your writing style relies on your own unique voice. And while it's important to remain polite and respectful, we can't sound like everyone else. Once you communicate in your comfort zone, your personality will come out even in the shortest emails. In other words, write like you converse. Your writing style should reflect your personality. In the world of freelancing, you'll be surprised how casual most people, if not all, sound. Just remember to loosen up a little bit and try to sound like yourself. The last tip is tip number 8, which is to read books. You might think this tip is cliche, but reading a writing guide goes a long way. I actually have one book recommendation for you that will ace all your questions about writing. So this book is a staple of writers and it's probably even on your table if you're already a writer or aspiring to be one. The book is called The Elements of Style, written by William Strunk in 1980 and expanded by E.B. White in 1959. The book is a perfect American writing style guide in numerous editions. Now, all these writing books are mostly general rules and practices in writing, and they may or may not include tips that directly cater to email writing. However, I still recommend that you upskill by acquiring a good backbone in your writing practices. Once you get a good grip of what looks good and what doesn't, it'll be easier for you to learn other forms of writing. So that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in and finishing our English 101 series. Which one was the most helpful to you? Was it listening, speaking, or the writing episode? Comment down below and maybe you can also share more tips for everyone to use. Remember, we're all about your success and making your journey as easy as it can be. This series was intended to serve as a rocket fuel to those na nakikita ang English skills nila as their main hindrance sa pagiging fluent. And if you like this kinds of content, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get the latest updates on our channel. Again, this is Vicky B, your VA expert, and with Amazon Nation, we open possibilities.